I moved into the apartment complex on a gray, overcast Tuesday. The building was modern, its sleek facade a stark contrast to the rundown neighborhood it inhabited. I was drawn to it because of its affordability and proximity to my new job. The interior was just as impressive. Clean lines, stainless steel finishes, and an impressive lobby. The elevator in particular stood out. Its doors were a shiny, reflective silver, and the interior was lined with mirrors, giving it an illusion of infinite space. My first few days in the new place were uneventful. I settled into a routine, getting to know the neighbors in passing, and familiarizing myself with the local amenities. It wasn't until the following Friday night that things took a dark turn. I had stayed late at the office, trying to make a good impression in my first week. By the time I got home, it was well past 10. The building was eerily quiet as I walked through the lobby and approached the elevator. The soft hum of the fluorescent lights overhead was the only sound accompanying me. I pressed the button and waited. The doors opened with a ding, and I stepped inside. As the doors slid shut, I caught a glimpse of a figure moving out of the corner of my eye. It was fleeting, just a shadow, but it was enough to make my heart skip a beat. I shook off the unease and pressed the button for the 10th floor. The elevator started its ascent smoothly. I watched my reflection in the mirrored walls, trying to shake the feeling of being watched. The mirrored doors and walls created a disorienting effect, making it feel like there were countless versions of me trapped in an infinite loop. Halfway up, the elevator shuddered and came to an abrupt halt. The lights flickered, casting strange shadows in the confined space. My heart pounded in my chest as I pressed the emergency button. Nothing happened. I tried my phone, but there was no signal. "Great," I muttered, leaning against the wall. "Just what I need." A soft, almost imperceptible whisper echoed through the elevator. I froze, straining to listen. The sound was faint, like someone was speaking just out of earshot. I couldn't make out the words, but the tone was menacing. "Is someone there?" I called out, my voice shaking. Silence. I felt a chill run down my spine. I glanced around the elevator, looking for any signs of a speaker or intercom that might be playing tricks on me. There was nothing. Just the endless reflections of myself. I took a deep breath, trying to calm my nerves. The whispering grew louder, more distinct. It was a voice, low and guttural, repeating a single phrase over and over. "Let me out. Let me out." My skin prickled with fear. I backed into the corner of the elevator, my eyes darting around frantically. The whispering continued, relentless and insistent. "Who's there?" I shouted. "What do you want?" The lights flickered again, and for a brief moment, I saw a figure standing behind me in the reflection. I spun around, but there was no one there. The elevator was empty, save for me and my rapidly growing panic. The voice grew louder, more desperate. The mirrors seemed to warp and twist, distorting my reflection into grotesque shapes. My own face stared back at me, twisted into a mask of terror. "Let me out! Let me out!" I clapped my hands over my ears, trying to block out the voice. It was no use. The sound was inside my head, reverberating through my skull. I don't know how long I stood there, paralyzed with fear. It felt like hours, but it could have been minutes. The voice continued its maddening chant, driving me to the brink of hysteria. Then, just as suddenly as it had started, the whispering stopped. The lights stabilized, and the elevator jolted back to life. The doors opened, revealing the hallway of the 10th floor. I stumbled out of the elevator, my legs shaking. I didn't look back as I fumbled with my keys and let myself into my apartment. I locked the door behind me and leaned against it, trying to catch my breath. I spent the rest of the night huddled on my couch, every creak and groan of the building sending my heart racing. Sleep was impossible. I kept replaying the events in my mind, trying to make sense of what had happened. The next morning, I decided to take the stairs. My muscles ached and my mind was foggy from lack of sleep, but I couldn't bring myself to step back into that elevator. As I descended, I noticed something strange. The walls of the stairwell were covered in graffiti, much of it old and faded. But one phrase stood out, freshly painted in bright red letters. "Let me out." I felt a cold dread settle in the pit of my stomach. I hurried down the rest of the stairs and out of the building. I needed answers. I spent the day researching the building's history. What I found was chilling. Years ago, there had been a string of mysterious disappearances in the area. The victims were last seen entering the building, but they were never found. The only clue was a cryptic message left behind by one of the missing. A single phrase scrawled in blood on the wall of the elevator shaft. "Let me out.